Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Second City podcast. I'm Daniel Sketchley.
And I'm Callum and Dan.
Thank you so much for joining us again. We are here at 7 p.m. on Monday, 1st of September. Obviously, this won't be released bang on then, it's not live, but we're here right as the deadline is closing. The transfer deadline is closing for the 2025 summer. So we're going to just give our thoughts on today's events, on the window as a whole. We'll have a little flashback to the weekend that was as well with Blues and Villa and their results and so on. But because the deadline has literally just closed, it's 11 minutes past 7. Some stuff may even be announced as we're recording. We don't really know. There's still some stuff up in the air, so that's quite fun as well. We're going to get to experience that live if anything does happen in the next half hour or so. Who knows? What we're really hoping doesn't happen is we finish recording and then something big gets announced straight away. So we're going to try and avoid that, but you never know. Anyway, Cal, how are you? You keeping well?
I'm good, really good. I made one of the best decisions of my life yesterday, which was to not go to Villa Park, and I went to Wembley to see Coldplay. So that was a great decision.
Good, yeah.
And it looks like deadline day's been a success, I think.
Sure.
So, I mean, it looked quite bleak yesterday morning. So, or yesterday evening in particular. So it's been a good day, and I'm feeling good. Apart from the fact that we played football yesterday.
Yeah, the actual on-pitch stuff aside, I'm glad you had a good time at Coldplay. We were just chatting about that before we came on. A pretty mad concert, you were saying. One of the best you've been to, you would say.
One of the best. One of the best. It's worth every penny.
Probably one of your best trips to Wembley as well, based on
I
on
mean,
your last
when I
few
walked
visits.
into to be honest, I walked into Wembley and had some horrendous flashbacks to May when we lost 3-0 to Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
And obviously we were playing Crystal Palace that night, so there was a lot of nervous twitching when I walked onto the pitch. But
Yeah, and that one didn't go very well either, did it? There is, side note, there is something a bit odd about when you because I think I had it when we went to Sam Fender a couple of months ago, and obviously we were standing, so you stood in like the middle of the Olympic Stadium, the West Ham Stadium. It's a bit odd actually. Like, it's really when
yeah,
you take it in, like you were showing us some videos of the middle of Wembley and stuff. It was pretty cool. Um,
yeah.
anyway, shall we get onto the? Should we start with all the transfer stuff and deadline day as a whole? I actually kind of missed the ending of it as it ticked over to 7 p.m. I went for a run instead. I wasn't really like, I was kind of, I'm not really one for this like, do you remember what deadline day used to be where it was this like
Yeah.
mad, like, it's kind of weird. Like, I think it's probably a good thing it's not as crazy as it used to be. I think it used to be a bit like, it was just the Sky Sports day, if you know what I mean. And it kind of got a bit
It
out
got
of
very
hand
it
and
got very performative, didn't it?
it got silly. It got like, it was a point where it was great and then it kind of went too far. And now I think it's kind of bounced back a bit. So that's fine. Uh, Side note, did Isaac happen? Has that happened? Has that been announced yet?
It's not been announced. I think the deal sheet has gone in for it, but it looks like that one's going to happen. Mark Gahey, though, on the other hand, that one's really touch and
Fair
go.
enough.
That one might not actually go through.
Do you think it's weird the deadline closing at not weird because it makes sense, but the deadline closing at 7 as well is a bit
Yeah, I'm
odd.
not used to it. I remember a couple of the summer windows have done in the past. I don't really mind it closing at 7. It's worked great for us today. The real problem, and we'll touch onto it, is the transfer window closing 3 or 4 weeks into the season.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I used to much prefer it when it closed. They did it for a couple of seasons, didn't they, in England, where it closed like at the start of the season, but before a ball was kicked, basically, or after like 1 week. Um, but anyway, shall we talk? Should we start with Villa? You've certainly had them busier and the more stressful, or the more news heavy, but certainly been in the public conversation a lot the last couple of days. How are you feeling about it? Are you feeling pretty good? And mainly because of the Martinez situation, I would imagine looks like he's staying.
this is the best case scenario. There's no, especially compared to when the news broke yesterday that United were back in for Martinez. The best case scenario has happened. We've held on to him by the looks of things, touch wood. And we've added 3 players today. Um, two permanents, or well, yeah, two permanents. One's a loan that's really a permanent, and then another loan. Two of them yet to be announced. Obviously, we announced Victor Lindelöf's coming on a free today. Not a sexy signing, but
Is he still at
he's
United? Or have I missed something
no,
there?
he was a free agent,
Yeah.
so
Right, right.
for a freebie deal for us. He'll come in as centre back cover. He's not going to be first choice, and if he's anything like what Clement Longley was for us a couple of years, that'll do. That'll do. We don't need anything really more than that. It just gives us some cover for Esri Konza because, as we saw at Brentford last week, Konza didn't play. We played Mings and Torres, and it was a bit of a mess. So, so yeah, he's come in, 2-year deal. Yeah, we'll take it. Robin Olsen put a good word in for us, I believe. And then to add to that, we've bought. It looks like we're bringing in Harvey Elliott and Jadon Sancho. I mean, imagine saying that 4 years ago that Jadon Sancho would be a
Yeah.
Villa player.
How you feeling about that? I know I saw on the group you and one of our mates wasn't Liam weren't you weren't too thrilled with it at the time, it seemed like.
Yeah, I mean, Sancho, we'll see. It's only a loan, I suppose. There's no option, there's no obligation. He's someone with a lot to prove, especially in the Premier League. He's shown that he can do it in the Bundesliga, but the United move hasn't worked out. Chelsea paid Man United to not sign him permanently, and then they've arguably gone and signed a couple of wingers that aren't as good as Jadon Sancho in this
I do
window.
not. Side note, I don't understand. I don't really recognise Chelsea as a functioning football club anymore. I don't understand anything that they're doing. I don't think any of it's good for the football, full stop. But that's a different story, you know.
Yeah. So, I mean, if there's anyone that can get Jadon Sancho's career back on track, it'll be Unai Emery, I think, at this point. Um, Maybe he's good friends with Marcus Rashford. Maybe he's seen how the narrative around Marcus Rashford changed in just 6 months with us, and now he's gone to Barcelona. Um, so I guess he's trying to do the same thing with us the way that Rashford has, and that's why there's no obligation and there's no option to buy. Because I would imagine someone like Jadon Sancho wants bigger and better things than Aston Villa at the end of the day. Even though he's got no future at Man United. Uh, but yeah, we'll see. He's got a lot. He's got a lot to prove to us as well. Because it's not one. If it works, it'll be great. He'll add some pace. He'll link up down the left hand side with Ian Martson, who they worked. So they got to the Champions League final together 2 seasons ago, was it?
Yeah, it was 2024, wasn't it? It was only a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. I guess because I have quite low expectations for Jadon Sancho, the sky's the limit, I suppose. Harvey Elliott, I'm not big on him as a person, but as a footballer, he's quite good. And I think for 35 million quid obligation next summer, I think, bear in mind we have links to Lucas Paqueta for like 50 million.
Hmm.
Maybe, we've missed out on Marco Asensio as well. Harvey Elliott's maybe 4 or 5 years younger than them. Um, yeah, we'll see. It's a bit of an exciting one. It's a Sancho and Elliot are going to be a much needed injection of kind of freshness that we probably need up top at the moment, and just bring a bit of flair and excitement back, I suppose. Because obviously we've lost Asensio, we lost Rashford, we've lost Jacob Ramsey, Leon Bailey's gone. So there's going to be a bit of, at least we've been able to put some new players in there now. Because yesterday, I mean, we had no bench yesterday, basically. But the big one's keeping the goalkeeper at the end of the day. And I mean, there's a lot of agent talk. There's a lots of Fabrizio nonsense. Emi Martinez changed agents to George Mendes, and I hate that I know who George Mendes is. It's one of the things that you moan about with modern football. I shouldn't give a crap who the agents of players are these days. Um, but it's been obvious at certain points, in particular in the last 48 hours, that there's been a lot of this on Twitter, and I don't know what I don't I know a lot of people don't like how this has happened. I don't like how this has happened, and people are accusing Martinez of this and Martinez of that. And look, I love Emi Martinez at the end of the day, and if he's still our goalkeeper in 2 weeks, then great. I'm very happy with that. I don't think he's been maybe yes, it says we pushed for the move to Man United, but we don't know what's gone on behind the scenes. And my kind of feeling on it is that Emi Martinez loves Aston Villa. There's no question about that. And anyone who says otherwise is lying. He genuinely loves Aston Villa. You can he would not have been crying on the pitch in the Spurs game if he wasn't sad that he thought he was leaving the football club at the end of the day. Um, Clearly, somewhere along the line in last year, he has been told or been given a heavy indication that the club are probably going to offload him for PSR concerns. And my feeling on the matter is that Emi Martinez, who had just signed a new long-term deal, was probably thinking, "What the hell?
Hmm.
I love stay. I like it here. I don't want to leave, and has maybe got the hump a bit and gone, well, if you're gonna be like that, I'm off. And when you think about it, it's a World Cup year. And I said at the end of the last series of this podcast, when for the Spurs game, that he wouldn't go to Saudi, mostly because it's a World Cup year and he's going to need to play in a competitive league. It kind of rules out Turkey as well, because I think Galatasaray were interested today. So you're looking at the top five European leagues. Most of them can't afford at the time a 50, 60 million pound goalkeeper. Um, and so you're sort of then looking in England. Man United need a goalkeeper. It's been very obvious for a long time. And also, and a big one, because he's so settled in Birmingham, his family live here, his kids go to school here, his wife has two shops in and around Birmingham. Manchester's only up the road. Plus, Man United, at the end of the day, regardless of the state they're in, is a massive football club. I hate Man United. I wouldn't go there, but I can understand why players still want to go there. And someone like Emi Martinez goes into Man United, instantly improves them, and all of a sudden you look. Someone like Emi Martinez becomes Man United's goalkeeper, and all of a sudden you're looking at them as being a threat for Europe,
Yeah.
because the
I
amount of
think,
goals that they've conceded this year have all mostly been because of blunders by the goalkeepers.
yeah, the reason I thought the move probably would happen when it was kind of being rumored like yesterday was because Man United are, again, not to get too off topic with this, I think we're really seeing signs. Not that we needed to see them, I think it's been everyone knows it anyway. Man United have not changed at all. They've got this manager who's just spouting nonsense constantly, and they've splashed all this money on. For me, if they're saying they need to change the whole team, is what they're saying basically. So instead of building from the back like any sensible club would, and build having that stability, they've sacked off good attackers in Rashford and Garnacho and isolated Minu and splashed a load of money on attackers, and then they've put themselves in a position on deadline day where they really need a goalkeeper, like one, probably the most important position on the pitch. So
This is the thing.
I
This is
thought
the
Villa
thing that
would
really
rinse
annoys
them
me, though,
for it.
Dan. This is what that. If Emi Martinez wanted to leave and the club were happy to sell him and he went to Man United, I'd be sad. I'd have been devastated, especially because it would have been to Man United. But I think you can kind of understand it. The thing that really pissed me off yesterday was that broke, and intentionally was broke on Sunday morning. We had a game on Sunday
Yeah,
evening. As soon as that news broke, he was not playing that game. I know people talk about Mark Gehi. It's a completely different situation at the end of the day.
yeah. Keep also
Soon, as
keep
soon
just
as that,
keeper and a centre back as well. Completely
yeah,
different thing.
that
Like,
news broke, he was out of the game. It destabilized us yesterday. The players were all over the place. The fan base, understandably, was all over the place as well. Nobody was focused. Even the man, Unai Emery was clearly pissed off in his interviews yesterday. And then on top of that, everyone has known for 6 months Man United needed a goalkeeper. They came sniffing around Emi Martinez at the start of the window. How does it take them until the day before the deadline? It's not about 24 hours before the deadline before they go, oh, yeah, we might want him. And then they faff around for 12 hours going, oh, do we want him? Do we not? We quite like this other guy, but we don't know which one we want. And we're
yeah.
leaving us scrambling to maybe find a goalkeeper. Bearing in mind, we had two goalkeeping targets at the start of the window who we let go. One went, obviously, Garcia went to Barcelona and Chevalier went to PSG. Granted, we might not have got them anyway when those two clubs were involved, but we couldn't go for them because no bid had come in for Martinez. You can't buy a number one goalkeeper when you've already got a number one goalkeeper. It's worse than having
Yeah.
two main number nines.
I
Um,
thought that Villa would use it as an opportunity because Man United they are so incompetent. We've seen this story every summer since Alex Ferguson left. Nothing has changed. It's all going to end in tears. And I thought they'd use it as an opportunity to absolutely rinse them at for like tens of millions of pounds. Is
I
what I
think we
thought would
tried to.
happen.
And
Yeah,
it's
probably. Yeah.
probably one of the first times Man United have gone, oh yeah, should we? Should we
Mm,
not? But
yeah.
I'd arguably say it's one of the rare occasions that they probably should have done it. Personally, I mean, they've signed this young Belgian kid from Antwerp. Antwerp. I mean, talk about throwing him in at the deep end. I mean,
I think spending tens of millions of pounds, like 50, 60, 70 million plus on a top keeper has been normalised now in the post Alisson Edison era,
it's not like
and that is
signing
okay.
Kepa for
Like,
80 million like Chelsea did, but
yeah.
you know, yeah.
Um, so you must be pretty happy with that. Just on a side note, I'd argue as well, Sancho going into a World Cup year, he's not played for England for quite a while now. Bit of a chance for him as well to probably a slight downgrade on what having Rashford last year, but he's a very good player. If you can get him going, get him focused, he's a very, very good player. When he was 2021, he was like unbelievable. I thought he was a terrific player.
Yeah, but well, pre-Man United, wasn't it?
Yeah, oh well, yeah. There's, as I'm saying, more evidence there.
And I
Um,
guess his loan spell back at Dortmund was pretty good as well.
yeah,
So
100%. What did you make of all the? So like, I know not to sort of. I'm not saying this to like bait or anything. We've talked about this off camera. There's been a lot of talk about, and we'll get onto it a bit more as well when we talk. In fact, I might segue into it quite nicely actually. Obviously, you lost again on Sunday. You're second bottom after 3 games. You've got 1 point. You've not scored a goal. Awful start. Awful, awful, awful start.
and with
Like,
their next two fixtures as well are away at Everton and away at
yeah,
Sunderland. It is not inconceivable we could lose both of those games and be on 1 point after 5 games.
100%. I think Everton away. Agree. It's just going to be that's written, isn't it? Um, but there's been a lot of talk about how the PSR thing and how limited you've been and having to sell players and it's maybe put you at a disadvantage and not everyone and yourself included. I don't think you've really banged that drum too much. You've mentioned it, but not for me. I think again, I'm not saying this to bait anyone. I feel like this slightly playing the victim thing is a bit. Don't get me wrong, FFP or PSR, whatever you want to call it, it is a completely broken system that only benefits the established top 4 or 5 teams that of yesteryear, But Villa's squad is still very good. It's a top 5 or 6 Premier League squad for sure, in my opinion. And so you can't excuse awful results on having all this and also being you're supposedly having all these difficulties, but you're being linked with you've just spent all this money on you're being linked with Paqueta for an outrageous amount of money. You've just signed Jadon Sancho. You haven't had to sell Emi Martinez, and you're going to sign Harvey Elliott for top dollar next year. You're not exactly Sheffield Wednesday, are you? I don't really feel like any of it's an
No,
excuse, if you know what I mean. It's all being a bit, come on, lads, calm down a bit, is what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, I mean, ultimately, and we have spoken about this as well, is that in terms of PSR, what has kind of hamstrung Villa is the bad business that we did when Gerrard was the manager in particular. We did some really bad business and we bought some players that we just could not offload. Coutinho could not get rid of. Dendoncker. Those deals were really costly, and they've also been costly with the UEFA squad cost ratio, the UEFA PSR basically. That's what's done us this window. So last window, 12 months ago, we had to sell Douglas Luiz, for example. Um, Last minute sort of panic sell. We were doing dodgy deals with Forest and Chelsea and Everton, so that we were all compliant with PSR last year. We haven't really had to do that this year. The June deadline came, we didn't sell anyone. Um, but what happened over the summer? So we gambled. We gambled on making the Champions League with the Rashford and Asensio deals and didn't make it at the end of the day. And as a result, we failed the UEFA squad cost ratio because our wages to revenue was way out of kilter. And we'd already broken it the year before as well. And so we got slapped with, I think it was a £15 million fine from UEFA, which in footballing terms is not a lot, but in terms of a fine that like a governing body can give, it's quite hefty, really. Um, and we've been under a very strict UEFA spending plan this summer because if we break it in the next 3 years and don't stick to this sort of plan, UEFA will kick us out of Europe for 3 seasons, which at where we're at right now would be very costly. It almost certainly would mean that we'd lose some of our top players. It almost certainly would mean that the manager would probably walk as well. Um, and so we've got to stick to that. And that's meant that we can't buy, we haven't really been able to buy players this summer without selling players. And that's where that's why Jacob Ramsey's gone. It's why we were kind of trying to offload Emi Martinez because he's one of our highest earners. It's why we got rid of Leon Bailey's gone out on loan with an option to buy because he'd had a new contract on big money. Every player's been up for sale. It's been well documented that Villa this summer, all of our players are available. Do you want to buy our player? Here he is. That's our price for him, but you can buy any of them, which has not been, it's been really destabilizing. And that's what this transfer window has been. It's been very destabilizing. It's been very unsettled. It's kind of who could go and as a result, and social media is the worst for this. Twitter is the worst for this. Every player probably at some point has had links away. Watkins, Anana, Kamara, Tielemans. They've all had links away. Whether there's any truth or not, it doesn't matter. And regardless of whether, and we obviously haven't really been able to spend, and I don't think it's any shock that we've left quite a few deals to deadline day, the 1st of September, because it means that we haven't had to pay some wages for July and August on players that we're probably bringing in today. It's why, part of the reason why Rashford and Asensio probably haven't come in on permanent deals, because I mean, Asensio's gone for 6 million to Fenerbahce. Side note, who have we got in the Europa League? Fenerbahce, John Duran and Marco Asensio are going to play against us, so that's going to be fun.
No Mourinho, sadly.
No Mourinho. Oh, and Edison going there as well? Or
he was linked to it. I don't know if
yeah.
it's happened or
So
not. But
yeah, that's a tough game rolling around. I think around January. So yeah, but there has been a lot. Well, look, we have in the media, we've kind of played the victim, or I think I don't know if played the victim's right. I think we've tried to put our case in the media so everyone knows that, look, at the end of the day, our owners are not poor. They have got a lot of money. I think they're like the fourth or fifth richest owners in the league, and they want to spend. They're happy to put the money in the pocket. We've seen that in the past. They're not able to. We've seen the same with Newcastle. Newcastle obviously have been in and out of Europe the last 3 seasons. And so they've only had like Premier League PSR to worry about. Whereas we're sort of being punished for qualifying for Europe every year at the moment. That's the main thing. And that's, look at Liverpool this summer have gone and spent what, £500 million on play. The amount, I mean, they've signed 2 players for 130 million quid. I mean, how are you
yeah,
ever meant to compete with that?
yeah. Don't get me wrong. My comment about like saying playing the victim stuff. Obviously, it's still as I say, it's a completely broken system. It keeps the rich and keeps everyone else in their place. Obviously, it is a broken system. I think my point is maybe more. You can't blame like having 1 point from these 3 games
Oh yeah.
is not the excuse.
No,
And if
no.
you have a shit season, like your squad is still more than good
Yeah.
enough. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
it's the same
yesterday,
for it's unfortunately the same for the other
yesterday,
15 teams.
yesterday, yesterday, we might as well have not bothered yesterday because was anybody focused on the game yesterday apart from Crystal Palace?
That's a good point.
That they're a bogey team for us anyway, especially under Oliver Glasner. But as soon as all that, maybe would it have been better if Martinez was on the bench? Probably, probably would have been sensible because the chances of him needing to come on were really slow. I know, knowing luck, Bizot would have got injured within 5 minutes and Martinez would have had to have come on, but or just have 2 keepers on the bench. We had the amount of kids we had on the bench yesterday. You might as well have lobbed Martinez on there with Sam Proctor, and if Bizot got injured, you just put Sam Proctor on.
Yeah.
It didn't.
Shall we?
It just didn't help things, in my opinion.
Fair enough. Obviously, we've kind of touched on it then, and I know you didn't get to see the game live. The Palace game, what we saying then? Is it just what's going to shake this bad? I know it's early days, but it is a bad start to the season. There's no
Oh,
doubt about
there's no
it.
denying. It's been. It's funny because I said to you last week on the pod, this game was possibly a must win, and you went, "Oh no, no." It kind of was, in a
Mm,
weird way. It went about as badly as it could have gone. Really, we were rubbish. Didn't score. Got battered.
yeah.
Mark
Good time
Gehey,
for the
who's
international break.
international break comes at a good point. Mark Gehey, who's probably may or may not be leaving Crystal Palace, went and scored, and so that didn't help a lot of the stuff for the feeling around Martinez. At the end of the day, if he's
Yeah.
wearing the Villa shirt, he's my goalkeeper. He's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. He's got my backing, and there's been a lot of slander about him on Twitter because football fans these days are extremely reactionary, and so his Instagram post tonight. I don't know if you've seen it, Dan. It just made me laugh.
I have, yes.
It just made me laugh.
It's him on. What's it? Him on a cruise or something, going off to international duty
He's going to
with
international
Argentina.
duty. He's
Peace
just
sign. Happy days.
our fans can moan about that. That is Emi Martinez all over, just being a shithouse, and we love him for that when he's shushing the Lille fans and holding the trophy over his over his bits. That's him in a nutshell. He's just a
Um,
wind-up merchant, and he's just given a bit back today because he's had some pelters, and a lot of it I think is probably unwarranted.
yeah, and I think obviously I'm not a Villa fan, obviously, but I can see Villa fans moving on from all this pretty quick, and he's too good to.
If he saves the winning penalty in the Europa League final, do you think people will go, yeah, but he wanted to get to Man United last summer?
Yeah, no, I think I think he's just too good a player as well, as painful as that is for me to say. Um, shall we move on to Blues then?
Yeah, because you've had a really quiet deadline day. You've signed a lot of
Yeah,
players again this window, and you've spent a lot of money. But I thought you'd be a bit busier today. You were linked with a couple of players. I saw a lot of links for you for Patrick Roberts, but that doesn't seem to have
yeah.
come to anything.
Yeah, I mean, now we're just gone 7:30. I've just been checking again. Like, nothing has been announced really in terms of incomings today, apart from well, the only move today is George Hall has left to go to our sworn enemies, Port Vale, our biggest rivals now, as it would seem. Um, not a huge surprise. Obviously, it's a shame to see a player who's come through the academy and got so close to getting into the first team not be a permanent fixture now in the first team. I believe it's a permanent move he's gotten on. I'm just going to double check that. What does it say? Yeah, completely transferred for an undisclosed fee. So yeah, I can't believe he's only like 21 still though. I was thinking this the other day. I feel like he's been like on the periphery of our first team for like years now, and I know he had his season at Warsaw last year and so on. But yeah, it's one of them. He's been in and out of the team. I know he's had his injuries. Was looking like, if he couldn't get in the team when we really weren't very good a couple of years ago, he's not going to get in it now when we've actually got a really good squad. So it's probably a smart move. I wish him well. I think he's a very talented player. If he can stay fit, Port Vale, obviously they outplayed us last week for the most part, but struggling a bit otherwise, but could be a good move for him. So I wish him all the best. But yeah, in terms of incomings, nothing's really happened today. Like you said, Patrick Roberts we were linked with. There was a defender from Sheffield United, I think we were linked with, but I haven't actually had it confirmed yet, so I won't go into that too much. I've literally just seen the name. Um, oh,
Well,
what's this?
not that anything's been confirmed, but just keeping an eye on Twitter, somebody has had some Blue Noses have had some pictures with Patrick Roberts today in a car
Oh, have they?
park
Okay.
somewhere.
Okay.
So maybe there is still a deal to be announced.
Okay, fair enough. I'll just Google that now. Oh, this is live. Patrick Roberts. Who knows? Nothing been announced yet anyway.
Yeah.
Um, good sign if it happens. Where's he at? Is he at
Sunderland, it'd be
Sunderland?
a
So
season-long
yes.
loan, is what Sky Sports were reporting today.
Okay.
Was pretty good for Sunderland in the Championship last year. I think by the looks of
Yeah.
by just going off a few scrolls on Twitter, they're a bit sad that he's leaving, but understandable because they've signed a lot of players in those positions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, promotion experience obviously last season as well. So I'm not going to turn my nose up to that. Um, see, it's been a pretty quiet one, and that's odd because not odd, but obviously last year we had deadline day. We had the Stansfield thing, which was absolutely insane. Like, and then Iwata as well went completely under the radar that day. And he was one of our best players in my opinion. I think Blues, we've just had a few mad deadline days over the years. Obviously, we had the famous Alex Song deadline day, and with
The John
Hotter and
Terry
all them, and
window.
John Terry. We've had some mad ones. So this is a pretty quiet one. Sorry to interrupt the main podcast for this week, but you know what we were saying on the episode about, oh, I hope we're not preempting this and like a load of stuff gets announced after we finish recording. Well, that's basically exactly what happened with Blues. So I'm just doing a little pickup here. It's around midday on Tuesday, so the day after we recorded the main episode, just to talk about some of the things that Blues have announced since, just so that the episode isn't chronically outdated straight away by the time you're listening to it. So just going to just touch on a couple of them things very quickly. We did mention in the episode some rumours about Patrick Roberts, and that has since been announced. It was announced last night. He's coming on a season-long loan from Sunderland. Interesting signing because he's mainly a left winger. Obviously, we only just got Lewis Kumas in on loan as well. Already got Keshi Anderson, Damari Gray. So you'd think we'd be pretty well stocked in that department. A big difference seems to be that he's actually left-footed. So that gives us maybe a different option on a different type of winger maybe. So interesting signing. He played a lot for Sunderland last season in their promotion season, played in almost every league game. And I think he actually played in the playoff final as well. So interesting signing. 28 years old, kind of fits the mould of a lot of our signings this summer. Seem to be going for players, not super inexperienced players. We seem to be going for players that are in their prime and are kind of at their peak to benefit us instantly rather than a few years down the line. Obviously makes sense with a loan signing. So yeah, interesting signing to get in that one. And then the other bit of news was we've signed on a permanent deal, I believe it is, a centre back called Jack Robinson from Sheffield United, who actually I think played against us in the cup the other week. I believe he started that game at centre back. Also left footed. Seems to be mainly a left sided centre back. I wonder if the logic of signing him is that he could also fill in at left back maybe. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that would make sense, and you've maybe got someone a bit more versatile there that can cover both positions. He's 32. She played quite a lot for Sheffield United last season. Has got Premier League experience. I believe he's actually Liverpool's youngest ever player. He actually started at Liverpool and played for them when he was 16, I believe. I don't know if that record still stands, but I'm sure at the time he was their youngest ever player. I assume that cover aspect. I assume he will mainly be a squad player and a cover player, because I'm not convinced he's an upgrade on what we had. If you know what I mean. Like I mentioned in the main episode that I would have kept Bielik, and I absolutely would have. I'm not sure. I'd be very surprised if he's an upgrade on him, and even if he's an upgrade on Ben Davis from last season, who obviously we had on loan from Rangers. But look, as a cover option, can maybe cover a few different positions. I'll take it. Just feels a little bit signing a player from a team that are currently bottom of the league. I know it's only 4 games in, but I'm kind of. It might take some convincing, and from the little bits and pieces I've seen on social media, the Sheffield United fans don't seem too good that he's gone. But that's not me, trying to degrade him or anything. He's a Blues player, and we'll welcome him in. And who knows, he may come in and absolutely hit the ground running for us. And we did need another centre back in, for sure. Looking a little bit light there since Bielik left. As I say, I just wouldn't have sold Bielik, but if he wanted to go and we've got to get someone in, looks like we've done the job, and I'd certainly rather have him than not have him. So that's that. So they were the 2 incomings we had on deadline day. We had a couple more exits as well. One of them was Alfie Chang. These are all loans, by the way. Alfie Chang's gone to Bristol Rovers. Very similar to George Hall. Obviously, George Hall's gone on a permanent at least. Alfie Chang is it's kind of similar to George Hall in that I feel like he's been on the periphery of our team for years, and kind of obviously he's come through the academy. I kind of can't believe that he's only 22 still. Feels like he's just been floating around the first team for a long time. Obviously, he did have his big injury a couple of years ago, and he was also on loan at Walsall last year. I wish him all the best. At least with George Hall, the club have made a decision on that. He's probably not going to be playing that much for us, so it's time to probably move him on. Seem to not be able to find a permanent move for Alfie Chang. I think it's a shame that these young players aren't really getting a chance in the first team, but I understand that if the club are trying to, get us promoted, then they maybe feel like they need to just prioritise the actual first team players and the best players, and not necessarily giving youth the chance right now. So maybe it'll be the best for everyone, but at some point I do think a permanent move probably has to happen for him. Another move, Tyler Roberts, who I honestly completely forgot even played for us. He's gone on loan to Mansfield. What a weird career that man has had. Obviously, was in the Premier League with Leeds a few years ago. Came to Blues. Everyone thought it was a pretty good signing. I thought it was a good signing. And it's just not worked out at all. Obviously, he's so injury prone. Undoubtedly a talented player in there, but it's just not worked out from a Blues. Obviously, he was at Northampton last year. I'm going to assume he must be on. I think he's on about a 4-year contract, and he must be for Blues not to have managed to sort out a permanent move, because there is a good player in there. But I wish him all the best. It's a shame it's just not worked out for him at Blues. I'm sure we've seen the last of him in a blue shirt, and we did a long time ago. But yeah, that's Tyler Roberts to Mansfield. And then the other one was, I think the Chang and the Roberts ones for them are probably are good moves. The other loan that happened last night was Taylor Gardner-Hickman's gone to Blackburn. And I think this one's a bit of a shame. I think Taylor Gardner-Hickman, I actually said it last week talking about the Port Vale game. You always know he's always going to put a shift in for you, and I really appreciate that. And I thought he was a good squad player for us last season. He can play in a million different positions. He's got loads of energy. He's still young. I think he's only 23. He's got years ahead of him still as a good squad player in my opinion. And I think Blackburn have got a really good player there. Loaning out a player like that to another Championship team is I'm a bit like, I can understand maybe why Gardner-Hickman will want to go. He's obviously not really played at all this season, but it's kind of weird that we signed him permanently after his loan spell, announced it halfway through last season, and then we've moved him on again straight away. That one's a bit of a shame, but I can see why they've done it. But yeah, a bit of a shame, and I think Blackburn have got a good player there. At least with the others who are loaning them out to League One teams, loaning them out to a team in the same division as us. Of course, hopefully we'll be above Blackburn, but you never know with these things. There's just a few things to touch on there in terms of signings and so on. A rumour which I forgot to talk about as well last week One which Blues have been linked to, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, obviously former England player, obviously he used to play for Arsenal and Liverpool. You've probably seen his contract got cancelled at Besiktas this week. To me, that is not a good sign at all. I don't really know what's going on there. Nothing's happened. Obviously, because he's now a free agent, there's no need to get it in before the deadline or anything like that. So who knows? Something could still happen there, but I'd be very surprised if there's anything in that. To be honest, a quality player. Don't get me wrong. If he can stay fit, he's a quality player. But yeah, weird one with that. His contract being cancelled at Besiktas. I'd love to know what's going on there and what has actually caused that. I feel like if you're having your contract cancelled under any circumstance, it's probably not. It's very rare. There can't be a good reason for that, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that was another rumour. A few players that are still around, Alphonse Samsted, Lyndon Dykes, players that were maybe being linked with a move away. They're still here, and that doesn't really bother me, to be honest. I think they both do have some use as a... Samsted, obviously, maybe more as a cover player for sure, but I think in an injury crisis, he could still do a half-decent job in the Championship. So yes, there's just a quick update for you all on few incomings and a few outgoings. Gosh, I can't get my words together at all today. But yeah, so that was Blues. And sorry for the little interruption, and back to the main episode. But obviously, the summer has been anything but quiet. We've had a really mad window. Here we go. So who have we got in? So we have loaned in, obviously, James Beadle from Brighton, Tommy Doyle from Wolves, Erin Cashin from Brighton, and obviously just last week, Lewis Kumas from Liverpool. And then we've signed Damari Gray from Al Ettifaq in Saudi Arabia, Bright Say Samuel from Fenerbahce, Kyogi Furuhashi from Rennes, obviously he was most famous for his time at Celtic, Kanya Fujimoto from Gil Vicente in Portugal, and then Marvin Duksch from Werder Bremen, I should say. So it's been a really busy window. And really, we've got a lot of our business done early. Maybe we should look at it that way instead of saying we haven't got anyone in or we've had a bad couple of results last week. I thought maybe we have, and it's just not been announced. But I thought the club would do. I did think the club might do something big as like a statement, like the Stansfield thing last year, a bit of a documentary moment. But I kind of respect that they haven't. If they haven't, we've made a lot of people talk about a statement signing. We've made some really good signings. Gray's come in and done really well so far. I know he's like unfortunately picked up. It looked like he picked up a bit of an injury in the Leicester game, but that's a really good signing. Kyogo, again, he's struggled a bit so far. He's not scored in the league yet, but it's a really good signing. And we've also kept, Peck and Iwata, Clara, obviously Neumann came in as well. Obviously, he was announced in January, and now he's actually moved to the club in the summer from Germany. I think it's a really good window on the whole. And I actually thought, and we'll touch on it a bit more in a minute. Obviously, last week we had our first two losses of the season: Port Vale in the cup and Leicester in the league. I'm watching the Leicester game. I wasn't watching that game and thinking, oh my God, we need this. I thought we get a left back in actually because we do need cover there. Um, but I wasn't looking at the first 11 and thinking, oh my God, this has got to improve. We need this. I think there's things you can improve the squad. People have talked about raising the floor, not the ceiling, if you know what I mean. Like so that the squad is better, not necessarily the starting 11, maybe. Um, but I wasn't watching the Leicester game and thinking this is bad or we haven't got the players. I think maybe with the players we've got, we need to just experiment a bit more and work out the actual best team, if you know what I mean. Because Kyogo,
You've had a lot of turnover with players in the last 2 summers and
yeah,
January.
yeah, 100%. I think in Kyogo, I really believe in the Kyogo thing. I think there's got to be a way it works. So instead of like spending money bringing in someone again now on deadline day, I feel like we just need to mess around with the players we've got and work out what works best. Kyogo's a quality player. I feel like we just haven't worked it out yet. He's just struggling to get involved in games. He's not, and yes, he is missing chances. Obviously, he's missed some big ones, which he should score. But like on Leicester, we just couldn't get him involved in the game at all. It's not for his lack of effort. I think we just need to work out the best system, who belongs where, to unlock it. There's some weird stuff with like, um, and everyone said Tommy Doyle could be that player. That's a great signing on loan from Wolves, Premier League quality player. I found it really weird. He's not starting league games, and I found it really weird that we subbed him on against Leicester and then subbed Kyogo off a few minutes later and brought Dykes and Duksch on, which I found really odd. As like you've brought the player who supposedly is can unlock this rapid striker with his brilliant mazy runs, and instead we finally brought on the big lads. I found that really weird. And
The thing is, as well, with
Davis for me had some
strikers,
weird moments last week. Like,
strikers one of those positions. They're kind of 90-minute players for the most part.
Yeah,
Very certainly 80-minute players. We saw that with Watkins and Duran last year. You're taking one off after 60 minutes, and it's like you're not really you got to the point where you're starting to change things up. You kind of need to keep them on.
yeah. No, 100%. So yeah, so I'm not too down about it, and I think we've had a very good window on the whole. Again, I think maybe there's a couple of positions we could use a little bit more cover. I think maybe it's centre back. I wouldn't have sold Bielik. I know we talked about him a bit the other week, but I think like take that Port Vale game for example. We made loads of changes. If you're bringing Bielik in for that game instead, there's your leader. You know what I mean? There's your experience. And I think as cover, you could do so much worse. You can cover in as a centre back, a centre mid, a defensive midfielder. Obviously, Alfie May going is a shame, but you got again. I think we've signed well. And there's a lot of players we really haven't seen much of yet. Marvin Dukes, we've barely seen play. He's not fully fit yet. Kenya Fujimoto, we've seen like 45 minutes of in that Port Vale game. So no, I'm not too down about it. I think we have had a good window. I think last week was a bad week, but it's not the end of the world. And I think with the players we've got, again, I think we could have done with another centre back, another left back as cover. Again, you want to be buying players who are good enough to maybe challenge for that spot, obviously. But I don't think we needed anything to drastically improve the 11, if you know what I mean. So yeah, obviously I kind of talked about it a bit there. The Leicester game, I'll just briefly go into that.
It was a bad
Uh,
weekend in Birmingham this weekend.
it was, yeah. To be fair, I've not had too many of them recently. 2025 is only our second loss in the league of 2025, which is pretty crazy. I think that's it. We're really not. We've become used to not losing, which is a great thing, obviously. Yeah, I didn't think Leicester were anything special, if I'm honest. I didn't think they were amazing. I thought two moments of quality. I mean, that first goal from Fatawu is a great strike. But I did think they were like, I did think they looked stronger and like physically more up for it than we did. I don't think we did. I disagreed with Chris Davies coming out and saying we played really well. I don't think we did. I don't think we created a lot, but neither did Leicester. I think, I think a draw or a narrow 1-0 loss wouldn't have been unfair. 2-0 flatters them slightly, but I don't think it's yeah, not the end of the world though, is it? Look, it's early days. It was a frustrating watch, but nothing. And again, I talked about the whole Kyogo thing and not quite working there, but I think with time and more games, we can maybe get it to gel a bit more. Side note, I don't know if you saw, so Pereira, who scored the second goal, put in a horrendous challenge on Kyogo not long before that. It was he got a yellow card for it. It was a studs up on on the shin, a stone wall red card. I'm kind of amazed it's not been talked about more. It was a horror tackle. It's an absolute leg breaker in my opinion. It's an awful challenge, and obviously there's no VAR in the championship, and that is fine. But
That's no guarantee of the right decision, Dan.
it's
We
not to
saw
be
that at the
fair.
weekend, like
It's
every
not.
weekend.
That's very true. Yeah, it was an awful tackle. So that was annoying because obviously he stayed on the pitch and nicked the second goal. Um, And then obviously, we talked about the Port Vale game last week. Of course, I think between us recording and then the video going out, the episode going out, it was announced the draw happened, and it was announced who we would have played in the third round. So, just gonna have a little moment to talk about that. We obviously would have played Arsenal in the third round at home.
Oh, yes and no.
Yes and no. Why is that? Oh, is it
Because
because there's
because
this
because
stupid?
well, no, because you would have because Port Vale were what ball number 19, but you wouldn't have been number 19. You'd have been
Oh,
ball
that's
number.
true actually.
So,
Oh, that's
uh,
true. Yeah,
so it's the only, if that's a small bit of comfort for you,
that is a
Dan.
bit of comfort. Yeah, that's very true actually. Because I was really pissed off about that for a couple of days. Because it would have been so special. We haven't played Arsenal since we beat them in 2011 in the final. It would have been so, and then obviously we very quickly went on the way down after that. It would have been amazing to have played them again on the way back up nearly 15 years later, in the same competition again, if you know what I mean. That would have been a really special, and it would have been a great night. That does bring me a bit of comfort though. I'm glad you've spared everyone of my true wrath on that one. That's a very good point. Um, but yeah,
I
that's
should have
kind of
let you
everything
I
I have
should have
for
let your
Blues, really.
wrath go out and then told you at the end of it.
No, I would have felt pretty stupid if you'd done that. But I think that's everything I had on Blues, and obviously we're going into an international break now. Um, it feels very early for a break. I think it does happen every season, but it feels like we've only just got going, really. But
Yeah, it does feel really early. I'm glad for it though. I feel like for Villa as a whole, we need the break, just a week off to just
yeah,
I mean, the season hasn't started yet for us. I can't wait for the season. It's weird, the Premier League starting in September, mid-September.
There we go. Any excuse. But I think that just about wraps us up anyway. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week with something a little bit different, I guess. There's no games on this weekend. Maybe we'll try to do something else next week. Are you
Maybe I
away
am
again?
away
Yes.
next weekend with work,
Oh,
and it
here
is
we
the
go.
international break, so maybe we'll squeeze something in, but we might have a week off.
Maybe, maybe. But until then, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me, Cal, and keep right on.
See you next week, Dan. No Villa players have been announced or been on, so I'll enjoy that later tonight. Up the Villa.